Hi, it's Mary. Welcome to the Paper Turtle. Today we are going to put the signatures in to this journal whose cover I made the other day. If you recall making this, today we're going to put the signatures in. I have 3 signatures that I'm putting in. 2 of them I have ready, and the third one I saved the preparation of it for the filming so that you could see how I do this. I'm also, I don't know if I'm going to have time. Let me get my watch so I know what time it is. Okay. I also might work on the cover a little bit, but I'm going to show you what I have planned for it. So here's the cover. And what I want to do, I have this piece of fabric. I have this absolutely gorgeous picture. I love this so much. It's going to go there. And I'm showing you this right now because I may not get to doing it. So if I don't get to doing it, you'll see what I'm going to do, and then I'll probably do it off camera. And then you'll see the finished project at some later point in time. I'm going to put a piece of lace on the bottom. I'm going to sew around this. And then at the top here, I want to put one of these book plates. And I'm having trouble deciding. I had this bright pink, which I didn't care for. But I have this green, and it'll go there, and then there'll be a piece of paper inside it that says, I don't know, journal or something. I'm not sure what. But I like the green one. It's not bad. And I like this light pink one. So I haven't decided yet which one I'm going to put on there. I'm really kind of leaning toward the green one. I don't know. I have others in here. I have these kind of off-white oval shaped ones, but I didn't care for that. And I have silver. I have yellow, which I really didn't care for. I have copper. But the ones that as I looked through and I tried different ones, these are the 2 that I decided I liked on here. So that's what I think I'm going to do on the cover. I'm not going to do it right now, though. And this picture, I want to tell you a little bit about this before I get into the signature stuff. This I cut out of a book, and I think that it was a book about Victorian scrapbooks. And I had a whole pile of these pictures. They're absolutely gorgeous. I've used some of them on some other projects you may have seen. But look at these. It was really hard for me to choose which of these pictures that I wanted. Aren't they just absolutely beautiful? So I decided, and I should have thought of this before I used other pictures on my other projects, to copy these so that I would have them, because, you know, once I use these originals, I wouldn't have them anymore. I mean, they're originals from the book. This is not an original photograph. It's from the book. But they're, again, if I use them, I won't have them. So I made some copies that I can cut out, and I did it on kind of like a cream colored paper. Now, of course, they're not as vibrant as the original cutouts, but they're more vintage looking, and they're very usable. So I have those in my stash. Yes, I'm well aware of copyright. I'm not selling them. Don't worry. Don't report me to any authorities. These are for my own use. That's all. Okay, so the cover maybe for the end of the video, if I get to it. If I don't get to it, that's okay. You know what it's going to look like. So my signatures. I have 3 signatures. As you know, I have a 2.5-inch spine, which is pretty wide, so I can fit quite a bit in there. I tend to overdo it, so I try to keep it to a minimum here so that when I fill these pages up and the book expands, it won't outgrow the spine. One thing that I like to do when I'm making my signatures, not everybody does this, you don't have to do this, this is just my way that I do it. I like to make, I guess what I call a signature cover, and that's the first page in the signature. I tend to use a heavier weight scrapbook paper, and it's the biggest page. So everything else that goes inside this page in the signature is either the same size or smaller. It's just the way that I like to do it. I've done it different on some journals, but usually that's just my, I don't know, my MO, I guess. So this journal measures 9 by 7, where the pages are going to measure 9 by 7. So because it is wider than 6 inches, one piece of scrapbook paper won't cover the full 7 inches on both sides. So I have to piece 2 pieces together. And you can do that in a variety of ways. So I'm going to show you what I did on for my 3 signatures. There's a million different ways you can do it. This is just a couple of ideas. So the first one, I folded my first piece of scrapbook paper, which was this one right here, at 7 inches. So we have one side that's the 7 inches, and then the other side, which is 5 inches for a 12 by 12 piece of scrapbook paper, right? And I cut the height to the 9 inches that I wanted. So here's scrapbook paper number 1. So this side is the 7 inches. This side was only 5, so I needed 2 more inches on here. So I took another piece of scrapbook paper, which was this, cut it to 9 by 7, and I just glued it onto this one. And on this side, I made it into a pocket. And I inked around the edges so it wouldn't be like stark white. So that's one way that you can piece your pages together. It also took away the stark white of this side and gave me this really pretty page over here. So that's one. The second one, here's the first piece of scrapbook paper, which is, again, I folded it at 7. It just worked out that way. You don't, of course, don't have to fold it at your exact size. You can fold it 5 and then add another 2 inches onto that piece. However it works out for you. Play around with it and you know, get creative. So here's the first scrapbook paper. The second one I added very similar to the first one, only I added the whole width of it, and I put the 5 inches on this side and then folded over the 7-inch side, which this may be like 6 3/4 to allow for folding right here. So what I ended up with is a pocket here. It's a shallow pocket, but it works, it's functional. And then you open it up and this folds out. Yes, that's a lot of white space, but you can look at that in 2 different ways. That's a lot of space to be able to decorate, or it's a lot of space to be able to journal on, however you choose to do it. But there's my second signature cover, as I'm calling them. And then the third one, this paper, by the way, absolutely gorgeous paper. And it is, oh, where is that paper pack? It's an older Recollections paper pack. They don't, these aren't in the stores. I don't know if you'd ever be able to find this anymore, but you never know, somewhere on Etsy or eBay or in a thrift store. It's called Pretty as a Peacock. And the pages in it, they're really bright and colorful, and they are peacock themed. They're so pretty. I've used a lot of it up, so there's the prettiest ones aren't in here anymore. But yeah, that's what it's from Michael's. So this is the first page, and then I added the second page. I just added a, how big is that? 5? Yep. A 5-inch piece here, but this one is only glued here and here to make a pocket here and a pocket here. It's a little precarious to only be glued here and here, but I think that it'll hold just fine. If I find at some point that it's starting to come apart or something, I can always put some washi tape or something across to hold it together, but I think it'll be okay. So that's going to be the cover of my third signature. So the third signature, these are the papers that I have picked out. Now, the first 2 signatures are done. I've already gone through, sized my paper, put them in the order that I want them in, because that's a thing for me, that the papers have to be, for me, in the right order. And I'll show you that on this one. So the first thing that I do is I just take the papers that are the correct size, and I set those aside. This has to be cut down. This one's okay. This one I think has to be cut down. This has to be cut down. These are okay. I think this one is 9 inches, so that one's okay. These, that has to be folded or cut down. That has to be cut down. That has to be cut down. Okay. So I don't want my signature pages any larger than 9 by 7, because that's what size this is. So we're going to start with this one. This is from an old painting book, how to watercolor or whatever it was. I just thought I liked the colors in it. I thought it was really pretty. Now there's a couple of things that you can do with this. The height is fine, because the height is 7 3/4, so that's less than 9. The width has to be shortened to 7 inches. Right now it is 10 1/4. So there's a couple of ways that this can be done. And I think what I'm going to do with this one is, one of them I'm going to fold. Let's see, how do I want to do this? I don't know if that one's okay if I do it that way. I'm going to fold this to make a pocket over here. So I want to fold it so that it is no longer than 7 inches. And I think I'm going to do like 6 3/4. So I'm marking 6 3/4, and that's where I want to fold it. Right there. I just measure to make sure it comes to 6 3/4. Yes. Okay, so I'm just folding this over. And this one I'm going to make into a pocket, so I'm going to just glue here and here. Before I do, I want to make my notch. I like notches on my pockets. I don't know why. Of course that doesn't have to be done, but for some reason I like notches. So I'm just putting some glue here and here, and it's really simple once you think about it. Once you get past, oh gosh, these pages are too big, what am I going to do? Once you get past that little initial, I don't know what to do stage, use your imagination and think about different ways that you can make your page the size that you want. There's always cutting it. You can always cut it, and I will do that with some of these. But there's other creative things you can do. You don't have to just cut it. So this one's a pocket. Now here, I was thinking just doing a flip. I can either do it this way, or I can do it this way. I think that I would rather do it this way. Then when you open it up, I get this whole thing. It's probably going to get covered up with whatever I do on it anyway, but you know, it's just the thought, I guess. And again, I'm going to do it just under 7 inches, just marking where I'm going to fold, and then I'm just folding it. And that's all I'm doing with this one. Just folding it to make a flip. So when this signature is in the book, there's a pocket here, regular page, a flip, and a page. Okay, that's one. This one, I believe in the other signatures, I cut off the jagged edge here, just because this paper it's a little bit brittle, and those jagged edges are just going to come apart anyway. So I'm going to just take them off so that they're not going to be a problem. And this measures already, it's smaller than 7, so I don't have to worry about that. And I don't want it any higher than 9, so I'm going to go just under 9. There's that one. This one is 8.5 tall. That's fine. And 7. But I'm going to cut off just a little bit because, you know, when you put it in your signature, depending on where in your signature it falls, it may push out a little bit. So I'm just going to make it just a little less than 7, if my cutter cooperates. So that one's all set. I have a map paper. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off the jagged edge again. You could leave jagged edges, and I think I did on a couple of the other ones. Or you can tear it if you like the jagged edge look. Whatever suits your needs. And then I'm going to make this again just like 1/8 of an inch smaller than 9 inches. This is just matte paper. There's nothing special on here that I feel like I need to save or want to save, so that I don't have to finagle my cuts. I can just cut off the end of it. And then again, a little bit less than the 7 inches. And that one is ready to go. And then the last page, no, I have 2 pages here. This is music, and I don't believe there's anything, no, nothing that I feel like I need to save. So I'm going to just cut it from the top, I believe. Again, a little less than 9 inches. And a little less than 7. Then this one, this is like 7, a little over 7.5 high, so the height is fine. But again, it's too long, so I need to decide how I want to shorten these pages. And again, I think I'm going to make this one a pocket here. I don't necessarily love that picture. So if I fold it this way, keep this part on this side, then that covers up that picture and gives me a 7-inch. Might have to do it just a tiny bit more. There. And I'm going to make that a pocket, just like I did on the other one. Now, some of these, this may be a good opportunity to, if you want to ink the page before I glue the sides down. I think I'm going to do that. I don't do that on all my pages. I don't ink them before I sew them in usually, because I don't know what I'm going to do on the page. But once in a while I have a page such as this where I'm pretty sure that I would want ink on it, just because it's very, you know, there's no other color on it. And it just looks like it needs ink. I don't know. You just go with your instincts, you know. So when you have a pocket like this, it's easier to ink it before you glue it all down. You can ink your pages after they're sewn in the book. But if you have a space like that, a pocket or a tuck spot or whatever, a lot of times it's just easier to do it before it gets glued together. Now, I've had people comment or ask me, when I have such an eclectic journal, how do I make my pages flow? Because they've commented that even though, for example, in the giveaway journal, even though it's very eclectic, there's such a variety of different things and styles and colors in the journal, but yet it seems to flow. One of the things that I do to make it flow is I check the placement of my signatures. That's just the start, and I'll tell you about that as I go through it, so that the colors and the facing pages seem to go together. They don't have to match. They just seem to go together. Now this one, I think I'm just going to make a flip out because I like this painting here. So I don't want to lose the whole painting. Again, when I start putting stuff in here, I'm probably going to lose it anyway. But just to begin with, I don't want to lose it. So I'm just going to fold this to make it a flip. And again, I'm going to have to measure to see where I want to fold it. 7 inches is here, so we'll go a little bit less. I'm going to fold it right about there. Now you can, again, you can get imaginative with this. You could take this, if you wanted, and you could cut, for example, right here, and cut this off so that you have a corner tuck here. You could do that. I'm not going to do it with this because, again, I want this to flip and open out. But there's so many different things that you can do when you have bigger paper that's wider than your journal. There's all kinds of things that you can do to shorten that paper up. And like with the covers, there's all kinds of things you can do to make your paper wider. So don't fret and don't think you have to use all the same size papers, because you don't. You can change the size of your papers. All right, so now I'm going to put this signature together. So here's my first page. That's going to be a standalone. When I open it up, my next page is a blank white page. So I want to put something with a little bit of color next to this, just so that I don't have two white pages right next to each other. And I don't know if you're in camera. So I'm going to, I think, just go with the most colorful one that I have right now. So here we have, this will be the blues and greens next to the white that goes, right? It doesn't clash. So now we have a colorful, so I want something maybe that not so colorful that can go with that. I'm going to pick this because this page has these kind of yellowish orange color in it, which goes with this. These may not stay like this. I'm going to go through this a couple times. So now we have this yellow, and let's see what I have for painted papers here. I'm going to get one of these in here somewhere. I think I'm going to go with this. It's got a little bit of gold in it. Kind of goes. Now I've got some purple. I'm going to go with this because it's neutral. This one. How about this? Another thing that I don't like to do is put like this with this, because I've got the grid paper here, and this is kind of in a grid, so I don't need the two grids next to each other. So we're going to add a little color to this page here. Let's see. This one. I feel like I have too many pages. See, these colors kind of go with the colors in here. Or I could do the purple. No, that's too bright. See how bright this purple is against this? It doesn't, this is kind of muted and this is too bright. They don't go. To me, to my eye, they don't go. So we're going to do this. And this. Solid against a pattern. Okay. So I'm going to tap it down and make sure that I don't have anything sticking out too much. They're sticking out a little bit, but I'm okay with that. They're not like way out here. So the size is good. I'm going to just run through it one more time to make sure that I have the pages where I like them. So you can kind of see as I'm flipping through the solid white against a pattern. The pattern with this little bit of this yellowy orange in it against this. I think they kind of go. This against a pattern that has a little bit of the gold specks in it. And a color against a black and white. We have the book page against the check that goes. That's fine. It's a little bit bland, but in this case, I will probably put some trim or something along the edge of this and brighten it up. And whatever I'm going to put in the journal is going to brighten the pages up too. And so we have this pink that brightens that up pretty good. And the same here, that's not bad. You can do a print and a print, as long as they don't like clash with each other. And it's all a matter of your own taste. You know, it's a matter of, you may look at this and not like this print next to the music paper. I think it looks okay. Somebody else might not think that that looks okay. So here with music against a solid. Solid against the book page. This has blues in it, which would have looked okay against the, where is it? Against the blue grid paper. But I didn't end up doing it that way. It's fine. That's something I might have changed around, maybe. I don't know. So I put this against this. I'm not loving this, but I think it's the best place for it. The colors go okay. I think maybe it's just this paper I'm not loving in this particular signature. I don't know. Print against the solid. Black and white against color. This, I'm not sure if I want this here. Maybe that needs to go next to this. Let's see. Yes, I like that there better. The blue lines on here go with the blue printing in on this page, and this is enough of a pattern to offset the solid over here. So then the second half of it should flow pretty much the same. See, I don't mind the gold against this because it picks up the colors. And then this blue and the blue on here, that works better there. Okay. So this is how I do it. I put my pages together, how I think that I would like them, and then I go through it one more time to make sure that what I put down kind of goes page to page. Not crazy about this with this, but I don't really have anything else to put there. So what I'll probably do when I decorate this is maybe take some of this, like a scrap of this, and put it on this page, or take some pink and put it along the edge or something like that to tie these two pages together. And that's how I make things flow and work together. Okay, so I have my 3 signatures. The next thing that the next decision that I need to make is, in what order do I want the signatures to go in my book? You're saying, does it matter? Well, sometimes it doesn't, but to me, to make it flow, I like the colors to go with my front and my back cover. And I think I've already decided what I want in here. I just have to remember what I decided. So this one, I have the green, which picks up the green in here and goes with the green trim. I like that as the first page. So that's probably my first page. Then the last page, I want whatever this is here to go with this. This goes because it's got purple, but I really like that. So, well, but here's the next consideration. When you're flipping through, these are going to be next to each other. And I don't want the 2 peacocks near each other. I think they're going to fight. So, I'm going to switch it. No, but then those 2 peacocks are near each other. How did I have this? I had this somehow. Maybe I had this one here. Then this one. That's how I think I had it. All right, let's take a look at that. So when you open up the book, this is what you would see, and this goes wonderfully with this, I think. And then the next signature would be these 2, which they're similar styles. The colors don't really go, but again, when I decorate, I think I can kind of put a little purple over here and a little green over here, and I can make them go together, I think. So it's okay. At least I don't have peacocks fighting with each other. So then here's one peacock and one plain, and this has some purple in it here. These papers are all from the same paper collection, so they really do all go together. And then when I close it up, this purple will go with this purple. Okay, so I like it. So this is how my signatures are going to go in the book. Those are all set. Next step is doing the signatures. Now, if you've watched some of my other videos where I've done this, it's always wonky. It's always, I always fiddle around with it and stuff, but I'm going to try to do this one with a little less fiddling. And I think I can, because this that I'm working on is a light color. I can put markings on it and see the markings. Sometimes some of the things that I put on here, you can't see the markings well, and that's what gets it really wonky. But I can see the markings on here. So the first thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to find my center. That's where I always start. When I have 3 signatures, each signature will have 3 stitch holes in it. So the center signature, center stitch hole, I like to put right in the center of my spine. So I have to find the center of my spine. There's 2 ways that you can do that. You can take a piece of paper that is exactly the size of your spine. In this case, it would be 2.5 by, I think it's like 9 1/4. 9 1/2. So 2.5 by 9 1/2. You can take a piece of paper that's exactly that size. You fold it in half, and then you fold it in half, unfold it, and the crease of your folds will be the center of your spine. Then you can put a little hole in it and lay it on here and mark it. That's a pretty easy way to do it. I'm not going to do that. I am going to find the center of my spine this way. Now I know it's 2.5 and 2.5. A half of 2.5 is 1 1/4, right? So I take my centering ruler and I set it so that 1 1/4, or as close as I can get it, is on either side of my spine, which is really what it should be, right like that. The 0 is my center. Okay, I'm going to do that at the top. I'm going to do that at the bottom. And I'm going to say this again. That wasn't quite centered. If you don't have a centering ruler, this is a centering ruler. It's got a 0 in the middle. It goes out from the middle, your inches, 1 to 6, 1 to 6. It also has your regular measurements, 0 to 12. But it gives you your center. You can always find your center with this. I love this ruler. Found this in the art department at like Michael's. You're probably not going to find it in the scrapbook section or whatever. So now I'm going to just draw my line from line to line, eyeing it to make sure that it's as straight as I can, and I'm just drawing a line. So I have a line down the center of my spine. It's in pencil. I can erase it if I want to, but I'm not going to need to because my signature is going to be sewn right in there. Now I'm going to find the center of that line. I know this is what I say, 9 1/4, 9 1/2. So if it's 9 1/2, 4 1/4. Nope, it's not. It's 4 3/4. Do I have that right? Yep. On either side. I don't know if you can see that. I have the 0 in the middle. go out to the end, it's at 4 3/4. If I go out to the end this way, it's at 4 3/4. So the 0 is my middle. All right. So right there, this here is where my center hole is going to be. Now, put the ruler back. I have to decide how far from the center I want my other holes. I don't like them necessarily halfway between here and here. I like them to be more towards the ends. So on this one, I think I'm going to do it at 3 inches. And the more even, or the more, not even number, but more whole number that you can come to, the easier it is for you. Like I wouldn't do 3 1/4 just because it's just easier to do it at 3. So I have 3 inches measured on this side, 3 inches measured on this side. So that's where my 3 holes are going to be for my center signature. Now I have to mark the holes for the other 2 signatures. So I'm going to start, put my 0 on that dot, and I'm going to decide where I want it, where I want each signature. So halfway between is going to be about 3/4 of an inch. Do I want it there? Yeah, that's probably the easiest place to put it. It's not exactly center. Now I can center it. I can do the whole, put the 0 in the center and find the center mark. Let's see. There's a 1/2 inch. See, because it's a little tricky when you're doing it this way. So I'm not going to do it this way because it's just too hard to figure out where the heck that goes. So I'm going to leave my 0 mark here and just pick a spot, and I think I'm going to do it at 3/4 of an inch because a 1/2 inch is too close to the center. 1 inch is too close to the end, so I'm going to do 3/4 of an inch right here and 3/4 of an inch right here. Yep. And I'm going to do the same here. Make sure that your ruler is going straight across. 3/4 of an inch right here. And 3/4 of an inch here. And the same on the last one. Okay, so now you can see, because my material is not busy, so I can put my marks here and I can see them very well, which is very helpful. Okay, if you can see that, I have my center line. So I made my center dot. From that dot, I decided where I wanted my other 2, and then I created the others for the other signatures. So my next step, I have to poke those holes. Take my pokey tool, use your awl, whatever it is that you have that is sharp and pokey, and just go through and punch all of your holes. If you do this not on camera and not explaining it as you go along, it'll be quicker. Watch your fingers on the back. Don't poke your fingers with your pokey tool. That would hurt. Some people have special bookbinding stuff that they use. I don't have any of that fancy stuff. Okay, now comes the fun part. we're going to sew our first signature in. So what I want to do, very first thing, always make sure that your papers are going in the right direction. That you have your signatures going the right way, and that you know which way your entire signature is going to go. Get them all in place, all your pages, and then you're going to clamp them. I use these. Sometimes I use a big paper clip. Sometimes I only have one big paper clip. So I usually use one big paper clip and then 3 clamps, and there's no rhyme or reason to that. I just feel like the paper clip goes further down on the page and holds it better. So you open up your signature, and again, just kind of fiddle with your papers, make sure they're where you want them to be, and then you clip them all so that they don't move around. See how far into the page that goes? But I only have one. I don't know where I got it, and I've been looking to see if I can find some more, and I haven't found any yet. But I haven't looked at like Office Depot or any place like that, so I could probably find some there. But I don't go to stores like that. I go to thrift stores. You want to make sure that your papers aren't buckling up as you do this. Kind of keep adjusting them and tamping them down and all of that stuff. It does not matter if you start with your first signature or your third signature, but you don't want to start with your middle signature. That'll just make it hard for you to do the other two. All right, so once you have your pages all clipped and you're sure that they are sitting the way that you want them to sit, see how they buckle a little bit? You have to kind of play around with them. That's why I don't like the clips. They're not, they hold them in place, but they're not very giving when it comes to getting everything adjusted. Okay. I think that will work. Now, you're going to mark where you want your holes. Still feel like this is not... I feel like this, it's like they're not settling down. I'm probably out of camera. I'm so sorry. You know, sometimes when you're doing this, you're concentrating on what you're actually doing rather than concentrating on what the camera is seeing. Okay, now you have to mark your where you're going to put your holes. So out comes the old centering ruler again, and what you want to do is you want to center on your widest papers. So center here and here, and it should be about 4.5 because they should be 9 inches tall, and that's just about exactly where it's at. Now when you do this, don't get disillusioned. You may not be in the center of this first page because this first page may not be centered in your journal, and that's okay if it's not, and it's okay if you're not in the center of that first page. It just all depends on where you want that page to lie in your journal. Like say I had, this was like half this size. I might have it down one end of my signature. I may have it up at this end of the signature. So it's not going to be centered. So that's why you're centering on the widest papers in the signature, if that makes sense. Now, if you recall, in here, we made the side holes 3 inches from the center hole. So that's what you want to do here. You want to take the center hole, put your centering ruler on it. I hope you can see this. And measure 3 inches and 3 inches. And again, it may not necessarily be the center of this signature, but it's the center, or not necessarily the center of this page, but it's the center of the signature. I hope that makes sense. Now you need to poke those holes. And when you do this, I don't know if I'm in camera, but you want to go straight up and down. Now some people use like a big phone book or something and cradle this in the center of it. It just kind of helps to stabilize it, but again, I don't have the fancy equipment. If you just make sure that you're going straight up and down, you're fine. The reason that you want to go straight up and down is if you don't, see how my holes are right on the crease? If you don't go straight up and down, your hole might end up on the side of your thing, and you don't want that. You need that hole to be straight. Okay, now we're going to sew it in. Again, make sure your signature is right side up, this way, in your book. I have chosen this green twine because it goes with my book. And what you want, 3 lengths of your signature, like that. It can be a little less, it can be a little more. I find 3 lengths to be way more than enough. But I do the 3 lengths because that's how I learned it, first of all. And because it gives me plenty, I don't have to worry about running out of it. I choose a needle that's not too fat, but that has a good size eye in it, because sometimes the strings that I use are hard to thread in a smaller needle. And I don't want the needle too fat, because as you're putting it through your holes, you don't want it to widen your holes too much. So this needle is one that I found that, I don't know, works good to me. Okay, got it threaded. Now, depending on where you want your threads to end up, where you want to tie them off, if you want them on the inside or if you want them on the outside, that's where you start your threading. I like them on the inside. Once in a while I do them on the outside, but I really prefer the knots to be on the inside. So, and I like them to be in the center. You can do them top or bottom, it doesn't matter, as long as it's all sewn in. So I'm going to do it in the center, just because that's what I like to do. I'm going to pull my needle all the way through and leave some hanging. Don't worry too much about it. You're going to be moving it around until you actually sew it in. And then through the spine. And then it doesn't matter if you go top or bottom. You just go to one of them. Make sure you're in the first one, not in one of your other holes. This one is really easy for me to see, which I like. Sometimes if I have that dark spine or a really busy pattern on the spine, I cannot see these holes. And that makes it difficult. As you've seen in previous videos where I've tried to show you how to do this. And then just back up through your signature. It's so easy. Everybody fears this step, but it's really not that hard. Sometimes it takes some fiddling if your pages move around, or you know, like I said, if I can't see my where the holes are or something, it can be a little fiddly, but that's okay. You just take your time and work yourself through it. that hole. And you just kind of, you know, pull it together as you go along. Then, now here's the tricky part. Not really that tricky, but you want to go back into your center hole. Make sure that you don't pierce the string that you have in there. So you want to go next to it. Which I pierced it, so you can see that. So I'm just going to pull it out, pull my thread over, and do that. It'll weaken it, and you won't be able to pull it tight. Why am I running out of thread? There. And back into this hole. And then when you come up on this side, you want a thread to be on each side of your center thing here. See how this first one is on this side of the thread, and then my needle's coming up on the other side of the thread. You can move it after you get your needle through. It doesn't have to, you don't have to worry about it right like at that moment. Okay, and then you can take your needle off, make it a little easier. You just pull it tight. You don't want to pull it like too tight that you're going to rip it, but just check over here, make sure this is kind of taut. Taut is the word, taut. And then you just tie a square knot. Or you can tie a bow if you like bows. You can do that. That makes it a little bit decorative in the center if you want to tie a bow. I like mine to hang down, and then I might put some charms or beads or something on the end, or I might cut them short so that they're up here on my page and put little cutouts, punch things in them. And there you have your first signature. Now this seems a little loose for some reason. I don't know why that feels loose like that. It's okay. It's not going to come undone or anything. I guess I could have pulled it a little bit tighter. Once you get that knot in there though, you're done. You can't pull it any tighter. But I think that it's going to be okay. It's not going to come undone or anything. It's just a little loose. We'll try to get the next one a little bit tighter. Then you just do the same thing with all your signatures. Make sure your pages are going in the right direction, that they are, if you want them centered, that you have them centered, or if you want them to be, you know, a little forward or back, that you have them where you want them. It's just like a last check, because again, once it's sewn in there, you'd have to completely take it out and redo it, which you can do if you have to. You can. There's like no laws against it or anything. All right, so got my pages all down in there where I want them. Put my clips on. And it really, once you've done this once or twice, it does not take long to do these at all. I mean, the first couple times that I made journals, it took me a while because I was just learning and just trying to figure it out. And I mean, it took me a long time. But I can put together an entire journal in an afternoon with no problem. And that's from start to finish. I don't, just because, why rush it? You know, there's no reason to rush it. I'm going to find my center, which we know is like about 4 1/4 or so on each side. Maybe closer to 4 1/2. should be 4.5 because the biggest paper should be 9 inches tall. So mark my center. Make sure I'm still in the center. Mark my 3 inches because that's what we did on the spine. There we go. Make sure my papers are all down snug where they want to be, or where they're supposed to be. Poking my holes, which, gosh, I'm so sorry if I am off camera. When I work, I work close to my body. And my camera is set up to be in the center of my table, and I don't usually work with my arms spread out like that. So I do struggle to keep in camera, and I'm sorry about that. I hope that I show you enough that you can see and get the gist of what I'm doing. So I'm poking my holes straight up and down through all my signature pages. Then I want to make sure I'm going in the right direction. See, it'd be so easy to sew that in like that, and that little peacock could be upside down. It goes this way. And the string, 3 lengths, 1, 2, 3. This string, that I'm using, it's old. It's Coats and Clark's Pearl Cotton, size 5, if that means anything. Thrift store find. You can get all kinds of embroidery thread, twine, all kinds of stuff to bind your journals with at the thrift stores. Tons of it. I have this stuff in all different colors. And it's great because I can match it to just about any journal that I make. I have the twine to match it. If I could thread my needle. I said I have a big eye on my needle so that I can thread it. Is that in there? Yeah. Don't you hate getting old? All right. Book is the right way up. This one goes in the center. What that is. Through my signature. Through my spine. And the bottom. Through the signature. That one missed it. Gotta make sure you're going through all your pages. Another reason. Wow, why is it missing this page? Another reason why you want to make sure when you're poking those holes that you go straight up and down. Because if you're slanted, your hole isn't going to line up. There we go. See, sometimes it's a little bit fiddly, but it's okay. All the way to the top. And my needle came unthreaded. Of course. Oh my gosh, I just realized, have I been sniffling through this whole video? I'm so sorry if I have been. That's an unconscious thing. I tend to be, when I'm watching other videos, and I'm sorry, I hope this doesn't like offend anybody. But I tend to be a little bit critical when I'm watching other videos, not like out loud, not to them. Certainly don't say anything to people. I do it for my own benefit. I do it so that I know like what not to do in my own videos, or what to do in my videos if it's something that I like. And one of the things that really bugs me on other videos, watching other videos, is the unconscious, because I don't think they would do it consciously, sounds that some people make. Like body sounds, you know? Sniffling is what I'm talking about mostly. Some people, I swear they're cocaine users, because they just sniffle through their whole videos, and it's like, stop sniffling. I don't know if you have a cold, if you have allergies, or if it's just a like a nervous thing that people do, because there's things that we do when we're like kind of nervous that we don't even realize we do. I learned this in speech class. Can you hear my cat meowing outside the door? My husband must be outside and I'm in here with the door closed, and she's freaking out. So these unconscious things that we do, I try to be conscious of. And one of the things that I notice there's certain people do is the sniffle. And like I said, I don't know if it's I'm all knotted up. I don't know if it's a nervous thing, or just an unconscious thing, or like I said, if they have allergies, or what it is that they have. But I'm very aware of it. So it's one of the things that I try really hard not to do on my videos. And sometimes I'll catch myself and I'll think, oh, Mary, you keep sniffling. Stop sniffling. And it's not, I don't have a runny nose. I don't need to sniff. I think maybe it's a space filler sometimes too. Oh my gosh, I have this big knot in my thing here. But you know what? It's down far enough. It really doesn't matter. I'll just cut it off. So yeah, that's one of the things. Another thing is saying all the time. That's another thing I learned in speech class. Don't say and we don't even think about it. It's just something that we do. So I'm not like, criticizing people for it. It's just something that I notice because I try not to do it myself. And I know I do it. I know I do. I listen to my videos. There's things that I do that I don't like doing, that I don't even realize I'm doing. So I try to be very conscious of it. Another one is saying, okay, after everything you do, okay, or so, or is one that I just, that's a real pet peeve for me. So it's just something that I try to be conscientious of, because of what I was taught in my public speaking class, and that I really do. I don't know. I want to be pleasant for people to listen to. I don't want to be annoying or irritating. Which I probably am. So if I am, tell me. If there's some little thing I do that bugs you, tell me, so that I can try to correct it if it's something that I can correct. I know I clear my throat a lot, but I'm still getting over the COVID thing, so it's a little bit scratchy. It's all right. One more to go. I always love when after I get done sewing in my last signature, I'm like, I did it. My book is done. I mean, it's obviously not done, because we're gonna put stuff in it, but it's put together. And that's always a nice feeling. It's like, yes, I did it. And it looks good. And it will look good. Have confidence that your journal will look good, because it will. And if you're making it for yourself, just do what pleases you. Do what makes you happy. Do what looks good to you, and don't worry about what anybody on any Facebook group does or any YouTube video or anything like that. You do you. All right. Signature goes this way. Oh, I have to do the holes. That would help, wouldn't it? That would definitely help. 4.5 and 4.5. So when you're doing your signatures and you're marking them, start in your center, measure out, and do the same measurements for each and every signature and your spine, and they will be straight every time. I see people that despair because they ended up with wonky, their signatures are all wonky or something. Well, I'm not sure how you were doing it. This is just a little tip. That if you measure out, I know people don't like to measure, and if you don't like to measure and you don't care if it's wonky, that's fine too. It's your journal. So you do what you want in it. Some people like wonky. They do it wonky on purpose because it looks cool. I can't bring myself to do that. Every time I look at it, I would think it was a mistake. I don't know why. It's just, different tastes and styles. But when I see other people do it, it looks really cool. Same with some of the collaging and stuff. I see people collaging and it looks all grungy and not, I don't know, not like perfect. And it looks great. If I try to do it, it just looks stupid. But that's why we all have our own style, I guess. I just like that style when I see other people do it. All right, last one. Here we go. I know you're saying, finally, Mary. God, you're so slow. I am a slow crafter. I really am. I just, there's no point in rushing through things. I just take my time. And hopefully taking my time causes less mistakes for me. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's always mistakes. You know that. I've shown that plenty of times, lots of mistakes. But we can minimize the mistakes if we just take our time. Think about what we're doing. Now, I probably should do this way. And when you're learning, when you're first doing this, or anything, no matter what it is that you do, whether it's like sewing or baking or whatever, and you're just learning it, you're going to make mistakes. That's how you learn. I don't know how you can learn anything without making mistakes. I'm trying to learn photography. Whew. It's hard. I look at people's photographs online, and oh my gosh, they're absolutely gorgeous. Of course, they edit them too, which is another whole skill set. I think that, the good photography and editing go hand in hand. You might be able to, get a good photograph, a good composition and stuff. But really the editing and the lighting and stuff really finishes it off, I guess. And I wish that I had those skills. And I've told myself many times, take a class, but I'm kind of a loner kind of person. I don't like to put myself out there with people that I don't know. And I know, here I am doing a YouTube channel. It's easy though. The YouTube channel, I'm not face to face with people. I'm not worried about people judging me, deciding whether they like me or not. If they don't like me, they can just shut me off. And I don't get hurt by that. Alright, this one's going to be fiddly. Why my very last hole in my last signature, you're deciding to be fiddly. Just get through there. What are you doing? What are we doing? There we go. So yeah, I could go and take a class and learn how to do photography, which is what I should do. But that just, it scares me to do things by myself like that. And no, I don't have a friend to do it with. I had one friend. One friend. I had one friend. She dumped me. I know. Stop talking about that, Mary. But it's hurtful, you know, and it's hard. You're used to doing things with your friend, and you had so many good times, and she made me this thing. I taught her how to scrapbook, right? When she retired, she wanted to scrapbook. She wanted to scrapbook her grandchildren. I was thrilled to have, you know, somebody else to scrapbook with and to share my my hobby with and my supplies. I gave her a lot of supplies to start her off with. And she made me this like a scrapbook page, and she put it in a frame about being best friends forever till we grow old. And I look at that and oh my God, it's like, how did you just dissolve this friendship? There was no argument. There was no disagreements. There was no incident. She just decided we weren't good enough for her. It's like, I don't know. It is. It's very hurtful. Anyway, all right, we're done. Look at this. Aha, ta-da, we did it. Okay. So here we have our nice, neat, all in a row stitching on the spine. Now, you can cover this up. You can put a piece of lace over it, have it wrap around your book. Whatever. If you don't like this, that can be covered up. Or you can sew these in a hidden spine, which I have not mastered yet. So that's why I don't show you that. But this is how I do it. And we have our 3 wonderful signatures. Look at this. Is going to do so much fun journaling in here. I can't wait. I can't wait to start filling it up. And look how much space I have. I can fill it way up like till it's fat like this. I love it. Okay. I'm not going to go ahead and do this cover. I'm going to do this on my own. But you'll see it at some point later on, what it's going to end up looking like. I think it's going to be beautiful. I just love that on this cover. I think it goes really, really well. So I think that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope maybe you learned a tip or two from my my method of sewing in signatures, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye. I have to stand up to turn off my camera.